Hi, my name is Dan Zeilinger, and I have been a world-traveling full-time trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of my most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials across the world. I've met many people during my career and have spent many hours on stage and off with these musicians, talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on the weekends with friends. I think they all have stories worthy of a movie script, and through these interviews, I'll be sharing them with you. Hi there, this is Dan Zeilinger with Trad Jazz Today. My guest is a banjoist, guitarist, bass player, all-around swell person, magician. I have a new nickname for you, by the way.
Uh-oh.
Here she is, the sweetheart of swing, Miss Katie Cavera.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Katie. Did you like that introduction?
I like that introduction. Thank you so much.
I'll make you a rubber stamp with that on it. You can stamp on the bottom of your letters, and
Sounds good.
it ought to be good. But you know, since you've seen a couple of my interviews, you know that I actually do research on people,
Yes.
even people like you that I thought I knew really well, and now I realize I know nothing about.
Oh, well,
And it's because,
yes.
well, let's start at the beginning because that's easy for me that way.
Right.
Evansville, Indiana.
Correct. Yes.
Correct?
Evansville, Indiana.
Evansville, Indiana. It doesn't have quite the melodic ring of Gary, Indiana, but it works.
It works.
It's
Yeah.
okay. Now, I also know that you went to Modern Day High School.
I did.
Now, do you remember the street that school is on?
Well,
And the reason I ask you is for a reason.
okay.
It's on Harmony Way.
That's right.
Isn't that
Harmony Way.
interesting?
Yes, and Harmony Way leads to New Harmony, which is a city just outside of Evansville that was a Quaker town.
Wow. But I just think that's really ironic with somebody who's got such a keen harmonic sense as you all.
Yeah.
Now, we've known each other a while,
Oh, yeah.
and I've always kind of, I've identified what I think of your personality, and I've known you. We've had private conversations and public conversations, and we've played quite a bit together. And I realized that that's all fake because you were a theater major.
I was a theater major.
So now I know this is all an act, and what I know of you is a lie.
Well, this should get interesting.
Do you mean I'm right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I mean, it just struck me as interesting in that crafting a persona is something that we showbiz folk do.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I know early on when you and I were in talks about where you wanted to go with your career and my ADDness, my illusions of grandeur that I could actually help get you there.
Yeah.
That we were talking about crafting a personality or stage presence for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I always pictured you as that, kind of a Midwestern rube.
Wait, Rube? Where'd you get
Well,
Rube?
you know what I mean. Somebody who doesn't have big city smarts and is,
Yes.
A baby in the woods, and which is all very, actually very attractive in a lot of ways. And you kind of have not purposefully, because I also see in the things that you've done that you try to fight that nice girl image on occasion.
On occasion, yeah.
Maybe not overtly, but at least intrinsically.
Yes.
You try to break out of that. Now, see, this isn't the interview you expected, is it?
No, it wasn't, but this is interesting. I like where this is going.
But this is what I like about people. And then you, so that was at Indiana University in Bloomington.
Correct.
When you were studying theater. How deep were you into theater there?
Well, here's the story. Because when I went to school at Indiana University, I was a banjo player.
Mm-hmm.
I had some modest skill on piano, but they really didn't offer a banjo major at the School of Music at Indiana.
Was that a 5-string?
It was actually 4-string at this time. I picked up 4 in high school. Yeah.
For
And
some reason, I thought you had started on 5.
I did. I started on 5 when I was 9 years old.
Oh,
That's
okay.
correct.
I'm not misinformed.
You are correct.
Just
But
dumb.
yeah, when I went to IU, I couldn't, I did audition for the School of Music on piano, but my piano chops are, minimal at best.
So,
So that was declined, and I thought, well, if I'm a theater major, and I had a lot of friends that were in theatrical and in the theater
mhm.
department. I loved
As
music.
you still have.
I still do, yeah.
Yes.
And I loved musical theater, and I thought, well, if I study theater, then maybe I can still kind of on the side do music as well. And it actually worked out very well. David Baker, who was a professor there for many years, took a liking to me and allowed me to take a bunch of music classes that, were for music majors only, but he signed the paperwork so I could do it. And I played in his band while I was there, and I had a blast.
I know I'm not telling you anything new, but you're so damn likable that you're going to hear that sentence a lot in our discussion that so and so took a liking to you or something took a, it's you know it's I don't want to say it's an advantage, but it's I consider myself, of course, both likable and a character, so I understand what that can bring to negotiations when somebody actually enjoys hanging out with you and
Yes.
having discussions. So I don't mean to push that aside or say that, oh, you're just using your, you know.
No, no.
But when you say your teachers took a liking to you, I can see that. I had the same thing happen in school where I would crack them up and I would get away with all kinds of stuff I shouldn't have, you know.
Yes, yes. I can see that. I can see you doing that.
Well, I had teachers that, enjoyed my jokes enough to pass me. So that's something, you know.
Very important. Yeah.
So when you graduated in 93, right, from Bloomington,
Yes.
you immediately moved to LA, it seems, because
Pretty
you got your first job at the castle in 94.
I spent about a year after graduating. I met my husband, Woody Pittman, when I was going
Okay,
to school there. And after college, we probably spent about a year where I was just his roadie, kicking around.
sure.
We were on a cruise ship. He did a lot of cruises, and I was on a cruise ship with him for about 6 months. And I thought, boy, if we can stand each other for 6 months on a cruise ship, this marriage is, we're going to do
Oh,
great.
I understand. I've done my share. I want to back up a little bit though, because we
Yeah.
sort of skipped over how you ended up on any music. Now,
Okay.
were your parents musical? Is your mom musical? I mean, I've met your mom,
Yeah.
but she seems more like a fan than a musician.
She is a huge fan, huge supporter. Made sure I had any kind of music lessons I wanted and
Wow.
could pursue, banjo and piano and really whatever struck my fancy. She was there rooting for me and wanting me to do this.
Yeah, my background wasn't that, so that's envious. That's good.
Uh, I'm
But
sorry.
what got you interested in all of that, in music in general?
Yeah, my dad is a very good singer and actually impulse purchased an organ after seeing a guy demo one in a mall. They used to have these,
I used to do that.
you were a demonstrator?
Uh-huh. For Lowry, for Organ Exchange, a Lowry dealership.
Right. So Kimball organs, they got the split
Oh yeah,
board and they have the drum sounds built in.
and really nice furniture.
Yes,
That's the
yes.
thing about Kimball had, depending on what your living room looked like, they had an organ to fit your living room.
Oh, yeah. And this thing was magnificent. I was probably about 3 years old when he bought it. And I loved this thing,
Well, you have a whole band right there, you know.
Yeah. And it was interesting. About the same time, the movie The Sting came out.
Okay.
And they were playing The Entertainer on the radio constantly on a loop, as you do. And my mom got kind of fascinated with ragtime piano, so she started bringing recordings home. So I'm a kid, and there's this big thing here that I can touch and make sound, and I'm hearing these songs over and over. So I started to pick out The Entertainer on the organ, as you do when you're a kid, Of course, my mom instantly thought, my daughter's a musical genius,
Absolutely, absolutely.
because that's where you go.
And little did she know that you are.
Well, that's very kind. But That really started my fascination with all of it, and to this day, I still love ragtime piano. Absolutely love it.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually worked for. I was one of those guys in those awful double knit leisure suits in the mall,
Yes.
playing with one finger on a teeny genie type of thing. You know when.
Yes. Yes. Well, that
Oh,
really, my dad thought it was great, and my mom later said she thought he was nuts that he blew a paycheck on this thing. You know.
now what inspired you to get a job at a magic shop?
Well, my husband was a magician.
Well, I understand that, but you met him before you got the job.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we met in Bloomington, Indiana. I was going to school there, and I
Okay.
actually saw him do a comedy show with some friends. We had a work related, work took all the employees to see the comedy show, kind of, team building or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, see, I didn't realize Woody was from Indiana as well.
he was, and it was so funny because I saw him do the show, and I thought he was really cute and really funny, and
I agree.
yes. And I thought, well, I was working at the time. I was bartending at Kilroy's Sports Bar. That was my gig. To earn extra money while
I
I
want
was
pictures of you in that outfit.
okay. Well, here's the thing. I started as a cocktail waitress on the floor, where you
Okay.
had to wear like jean skirts and the whatever. But I quickly moved up the ranks to behind the bar, which was better because then you were away from the masses of drunk
The
alcohol.
riffraff.
Yeah, you're right. And when you were behind the bar, you could just wear jeans and a button-down shirt.
Right. And
So
they're a lot nicer to you because they wanted alcohol. Yes.
that's right. That's right. So yeah, I've
Now,
worked for
see, there's a side of you I never would have known unless I asked these questions.
right, but don't ask me to mix a drink because I don't remember any of it. They were all like they were college kid drinks,
Oh yeah.
So the sex on the beach and the funny named things with lots of sugar and fruit
Yes.
and umbrellas and
Yes,
stuff.
and and an umbrella. Absolutely.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
So you both came out to L.A.
We did. So
Were
I
you?
met him at this comedy show, and I thought, well, he's just one of the comics they're going through town. And when after the comedy show, somebody invited all the comics back to the bar because we were all heading back to the bar to socialize, and it was funny. I'd finished up the night. I'd called a cab. I was leaving the bar, and a taxi pulls up, and all the comics get out, and I thought, well, he was cute. I kind of want to meet him. So I ditched my taxi. I walked back in the bar to meet him. Had a great time. We ended up staying there and closing the place out and laughing and talking. And I thought, well, I'm probably never going to see him again. And then as we go and we're exchanging numbers, he says, by the way, I live here in town. I'm on the road with this group, but I'll be back in a couple weeks. I'll give you a call. So that's how we met.
That's really, and, a lot because I've worked with my share of comedians
Yeah.
and things. A lot of people don't understand that they're extremely private, normally shy
Oh
people.
yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, there are people that have to craft a personality quite often,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and when I met Woody, when I met your husband, first of all, I was heartbroken, but that's beside the point, of course. Um, you know, I always, I always kind of take credit for your introduction into the Southern California Dixie scene, maybe ironically, but I remember doing that. I met you at a gig on the Lane Victory, which is a
Great.
decommissioned ship. And who were you playing with at the time?
I at that time I wasn't with any band. I was going around to jazz clubs just trying to get a foot in the door and meet people. And I had met Bob Simpson probably at the Manhattan Beach Sunday afternoon club.
Okay,
That he invited me to come on the boat and play one of those cruises that he did the little bands for.
right where we got strafed by World War II fighter planes.
That was a fun little gig though. I actually enjoyed doing that gig.
And then I was on board with a different band.
Yes, you were up the front of the boat. There was like a big band or something else happening there, and then Bob had the little Dixieland band on the other end of the boat.
And I said, well, and you were telling me that you were looking to break into I don't know how we got started in conversation. Obviously, you were cute and I was Dan, but
You're a little bit chatty. You like to chat people up, so I'm
yeah, I
sure you
do.
just kind of struck up a conversation.
And I said, well, there's a festival going on. I think it's the Palm Springs Festival, wasn't it? Or
Right? Yeah,
Cathedral City. I said, you ought to come out and meet the people. I'll introduce you around and see what's happening.
That's
Okay,
right.
so my memory's accurate.
That is correct. Yeah. And I
That's
remember, I think Woody and I drove out there to check it out on your recommendation.
no,
And
I even remember what you were wearing
oh wow, that's crazy.
because you were wearing a very emo, all black kind of Morticia Adams look,
Yeah, that's quite possible. Yeah, yeah,
and I went, "Oh, really? You had on those? You had on your black ankle boots,
yeah,
and it was a black lace, kind of a 1920s style outfit,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
wasn't what I expected. But anyway,
Sounds about right though. That sounds accurate for that time period. Yeah.
I'm kind of looking to that side of things, and of course, Woody's was the nicest man in the world, at least to me, and adorable is a great word for him. His act was, ladies and gentlemen, if you get a chance to look up Woody Pittman on YouTube, please do it. It's a brilliant act, and he was a fantastic magician. I can't speak highly enough for what he was doing with that act. Uh, it was accidental magic, kind of. I think
Yes.
that's kind of a good way to put it,
Yes.
and astounding. Okay, cool. Now tell me about working or being around the castle, because that's kind of, that's a fantasy for everybody in LA or anybody who knows about it.
Well,
And you
it's
were nice enough to get me in one, so
yes, yes. We had after we got married, we came out here on our honeymoon to kind of scout where we wanted to live and figure things out. And we stayed at the Magic Castle Hotel, which is adjacent to the Magic Castle. And because Woody was in the magic scene, so he had tons of friends out here. He knew tons of people, and I think that week we went to the Magic Castle every single night. It was just so much fun. We had
oh,
such
it's the place is a blast.
it really is. So when we first moved out here, I didn't know anybody. I was trying to go around and meet people and do these little jazz clubs and see what I could do. But I needed just some way to earn money. So I thought, well, they need cocktail waitresses there. I did that in college. Let me just get a job doing that. So I did. I was there. I wasn't there really long. I think shortly after that, I ended up at the magic shop with Woody, which was a lot more fun.
Yeah,
So,
and you were actually doing demos and things.
yes.
So you had to learn basic, French drop skills and those kind of
I
things.
did. Yes, and how that came about was they had needed extra help for Halloween because they always, had the blood and the costumes and the fake, they Halloween is a big time at the magic shop. So they hired me, just as extra help during the days, and they took a liking to me. So when Halloween ended, they said, "Do you want to stick around? We'll show you how to do some of the pitch items, and you can just continue working here." And I thought, well, this is fun. It's a lot better than serving drunk people at 2 in the morning.
Oh yeah, you get a certain stone people at midnight instead. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
Well, Hollywood.
Yeah.
For those of you who are watching this and don't know about the Magic Castle, I'm surprised you're watching this. I say that a lot in my interviews. And but it's basically kind of the mecca of magic, um, at least on the West Coast. I don't know if there's a parallel anywhere else in the world.
Not really. There is the Magic Circle in England. Um,
Ah,
but that's really the only other club.
yes, that is rejected. They rejected Penn and Teller. I remember that story.
Yes, yes. That was
But
part of a publicity stunt too. We actually love Penn and Teller.
yes. Um, so anyway, it's a wonderful place. It's kind of the largest thing magic wise, a magic club in the world, or at least in the United States, as far as I know. There may be something in Bangladesh I don't know about, but who can tell? And it's a prized ticket to get in. You have
Yeah.
to know somebody who's a member, and in order to get in, and you see. They have a great close-up room for close-up magic, and they have main stage shows and food. Food
Yes.
always works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun time. A lot of fun.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
So after that, you started getting more work on banjo than you knew what to do with.
Gradually. It took a little while, baby steps, but I met you, and through you I met a whole slew of other people.
Well, I remember you were like a deer in headlights when we brought you out to the LA County Fair.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you
That
had a
was fun. That
And you
was
had to put up with a lot of us, Lawrence Wright and Tom Liston, and
all
a
the
lot
time.
of us who were, um, I was a little more tolerant than some, but
Well, it was a real trial by fire, and Westy was there. It was so many great people.
oh God.
So many great
Well,
people.
Westy obviously comes up in every interview that I do for good
Absolutely.
reason. Uh, if you don't know Westy Westenhofer, make sure you look up Lee Westy Westenhofer on YouTube and see what he was up to. Unfortunately, we lost him a couple of years back here. And actually, I've talked to Sharon about possibly doing a group interview with her and the boys
Oh, that would be
for
wonderful.
this
I
channel because
love,
he is so loved,
yes,
And
I
she thought it would
love,
be a good idea, but she had to get through this musical she was putting on at the time. But
yes, yeah.
so I mentioned that to Bill Dendel, and he said, "Oh, I need to be on that." And as I tell people, they say, "Oh, include me. I want to be on that to tell stories."
We
So
all
we'll
should.
see.
We
And we
all,
may end up with like 25 people on the group chat. That'll
that
take
would be
six.
fun.
That'll take 16 hours, but it'll be fun.
That's all right. It'd be really good. For a dull moment.
Okay, so now there are some people that have really kind of been pivotal for you
Yeah,
in your career as
yeah,
a musician.
yeah.
Not the least of which have been C.J. Samms
Sure, yeah. I met
and
Steve.
Hal Smith. I just interviewed Hal, by the way.
Hal's great. Love that
So
guy.
you're
And
gonna like that interview. It actually turned out to be a whole bunch of fun.
oh, great. Yeah.
And there have been a few. I mean, other than just introducing you to the community in general, you kind of took off immediately after people do what you do. Now, when did you take up string bass? Because of course you cut into my work doing that, but
Well, yeah. String bass was the most recent addition, and I want to place at about 2002, 2003, somewhere in there.
okay. So that was before you got all tied up with Dorothy Dandridge and
Josephine Baker.
Josephine Baker. There we go.
Yes, yes. In fact, I remember at the Opera Comique in France practicing bass in the freight elevator for like 2 or 3 hours a day, just because I was really trying to get it down, and we had plenty of downtime there.
It's a whole different set of calluses, isn't it?
Yeah, the calluses, and it was fun. They'd bring little tours by, and they'd hear bass playing coming from the freight elevator, and there I'd be, and they're all in French, and they'd be waving and taking photos. I'm like, yeah.
How much French did you learn? What, you were there for 3 years?
Oh gosh, the tour went well. 2006 is when we started, and we were in France from we did summer tryouts, so that was a little tour around the little tiny towns, and then we opened at the Opera Comique Thanksgiving Day, America Thanksgiving Day,
Okay.
which nobody there cared about, but 2006, and went through January, and then the show went to Barcelona, and then the show went back to Paris for another few months.
Right. And you guys toured Germany and
We did Germany, we did Austria, we did a bunch of out of town. We went back for another stint where it was just hitting all the little, Lyon and Nice and all the little towns in France.
how did you end up with that gig, out of curiosity?
Well, it's interesting. So I was recommended for the job by both Chris Tile and Clint Baker.
Okay.
We had just done a little kind of a mini tour of Japan that we all went on with Clint Baker's band, and that was a blast. We did a big festival in
Well,
Osaka.
that band's always fun.
Japan's great. That's so much fun. But David Boatinghouse was looking for someone for this show. He had been hired as the musical director, and he needed someone that could play both banjo and guitar. And I guess my name came up as he was calling around and trying to find people to fill this spot. And we had played together at Sweet and Hot, just as you do,
Sure.
late nights or whatever. Or they came on stage with the Reynolds brothers at some point. He and Banjo came and played with us. And he's like, you think she'll do that? And I think Chris Tile said something to the effect of, I'm going to paraphrase here, so if you're watching this, Chris, something to the effect of, well, she'll do it, and she's a good travel person, It's not like she's a girl or anything.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a special person to be a road rat.
Yeah,
You're talking to somebody who knows.
yes, but meaning you'd be one of the guys and be an easy person to travel with, and that's important if you're going to spend a lot of time with somebody on the
Yes,
road.
you're not high maintenance.
Yes, yes.
In
So,
fact, maybe the opposite.
I don't know. I ended up going down to. They flew me down to New Orleans to do kind of an audition where the French director came in and they had a band put together of sorts, and it went really well. And at that point, David had called me and said, I want this show to be really authentic. So I know you play plectrum banjo, but have you ever thought about playing tenor? And I said, well, I've messed around with a little bit. Let me see what I can do. So I ended up learning tenor banjo for that show.
Right.
And I'd already played it a bit here and there, but that show, playing that show, you know, 6 days a week,
Do you prefer one
it's,
over the other now?
I'm sorry.
Do you prefer one over the other, plectrum or tenor now?
I don't. I still like tenor a lot, and I still play tenor quite a bit when I get the chance, just because I like the sound of it. I usually play once a year with the. Now I'm not going to think. I'm dropping their name. The Ragtime Orchestra in San Diego. Um, why I'm not thinking now that's going to bother me that I'm not thinking that. But
That's good. I can't bring them to mind either. So,
but um, I always play tenor banjo for that because for ragtime music, tenor banjo just sounds
well,
correct.
plectrum really wasn't a band instrument. It was
Right.
it was designed as a or the tuning is designed as a solo instrument.
Correct.
And the reason for the tenor banjos is all these violin and viola players were out of work the minute the jazz hit big,
Yeah.
and they all switched over to tenor. I mean, as you know, tenor is just viola tuning.
Correct. Yes.
But
Yeah.
so that's the sound you get on most jazz records is that tenor sound.
Right. And I think the plectrum became more prominent later with the revival bands and things like that. But I do love them both.
Well, Eddie just kind of screwed it up for everybody. Eddie Peabody,
That's great. Yeah, that's
he became such a huge star
That's right.
that kind of became the go-to for people wanting to learn banjo in that era. But
I'll tell you, I do prefer the plectrum banjo when I do the duo with DJ, just because I feel like I can do a lot more melodies that way, and it's a little more.
Well, the chord melodies, especially, which are
exactly.
really ridiculously difficult on tenor.
Yes, yeah, it does not lend itself well on the tenor.
Yeah. See, it's unfortunate I know so much, but being a tuba player, you just learn a lot about banjos.
That's true. Well, and you were with the Banjo Maniacs for
Well,
years.
well, not only that, I actually started the first banjo player I played any decent amount of time with was Howard Alden.
Oh, right.
When we toured, great. So I went from Howard to Brad to you, and now I'm having to put up with normal banjo players.
Oh.
No, I mean, seriously, I didn't know. I thought everybody was that good.
Oh.
And what I love about your playing, and I'm not trying to bud you up here because it's just truth, is that you have such relentless time. I think that's probably your number one drive when you're playing with a band, is you take it upon yourself to say, this is where it is, buddy.
Yes.
And in all seriousness, that's almost at least for me, that's the vibe you give off is don't worry about it. I got this. Just, follow me. I got this. And that's really a pleasure.
I love playing time though, especially when you're in a good rhythm section, with someone like yourself or Westy or all these wonderful tuba players I've had the chance to play with, that's the best feeling in the world when you lock in with a rhythm section and it just,
Yeah, there are a handful of drummers that I've done that with.
Absolutely. Hal Smith.
Hal Smith is one. Another one is Ed Metz Jr.
Oh, absolutely.
And first time I played, and it was just for a moment up at the Mammoth Lakes Festival, I sat in on a set that he was on, and it was like being in an easy chair. All of a sudden, it was like, I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, it's lovely.
And you can't really understand that unless you're a rhythm section player.
Right.
Because the rest of the time you are fighting tooth and nail to try and find a groove,
Right.
Well, and of course,
there are people that are true banjo artistes, in the Eddie Peabody sense, and can do that. But I never, for me, playing the time is like what makes me so happy. Being part of this big thing, seeing dancers on the dance floor, and knowing that I did that. I had some part in that.
Well, as you know, every time I get a chance to play with you, I'll send you a text or an email afterward just saying how much I enjoyed it. And it's because that's obviously the only thing, or your main directive is to make the music work.
Yeah.
It's not to show off. It's not to, put a medal on yourself and walk around the room, euphemistically speaking.
Right.
And that is rare and appreciative. Well, let's talk about some more of this stuff. George Probert.
Yes, George.
George discovered you.
Yeah. Well, George will say that, but I think I met you before George. But George would be happy to say that. George was a great guy. George was George. He was a character. He was a crusty old guy.
I used to get his practice phone calls as well.
Absolutely. He really, it was very important to him that the traditions of this music continue, and that people would pick up where he left off, and keep doing it. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I wished I was doing this before I lost him. He was so kind in his crusty way, and
Yes.
so giving. I talk about the fact that once he had me in the front line
Oh,
because he had June on bass,
yeah.
and he wanted me on the band. I said, "What do you want me to play?" He goes, "You're in the front line," and so I had to try and find a place, around the trombone and between. It was just nuts.
What
But
did you play? Because I know
I played my tuba.
you play tuba, but in the
I played my concert tuba,
okay.
and just tried to stay out of June's way, pretty much.
I bet that sounded terrific.
I
That
don't
was
know.
a lot of fun.
I don't know. It was a funny memory because it's the first time anybody's ever said that.
Yeah.
I want you to add to the front line. I went, woohoo,
Why not?
which is good. Now you've done a couple of jobs with me when I was actually playing cornet. I'm sorry about that,
No, no, it's fun.
but I remember that when I first met you,
Yeah.
we did a couple of things like that.
Now, is that part of your marching band skill that you can play a little bit of every instrument?
Well, I started out as a trumpet player,
Okay.
and when I switched to Dixieland, I was actually a high note Latin band trumpet player
Wow.
in Cuban salsa bands.
How fun.
And then Dan Barrett and Brian Shaw and all those guys corrupted me, and I never saw the light of day. But that's why I was headed. I was headed to be one of those ultra egotistical lead trumpet players.
Well,
I always tell my poor friends that my wife married a high note trumpet player, and she ended up with an old tuba player. So.
well, I'm glad you do what you do now. We're
Well,
all a lot better off for it.
that makes one.
Okay.
Oh, good. And so you've been around. I've got my note sheet in front of you. Pardon me for looking down.
That's okay.
You and I have both played in jug bands before.
Correct. Yes.
My jug band was Larry Wright's jug band with Keith Elliott on jug,
Oh, I bet that was a blast.
and there's, Hal Grudy was playing banjo, and I was playing string bass for that one.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And we did it actually at the Orange County Jazz Festival, and the people looked like the crowd in a Woody Allen movie. They didn't know what hit them.
I wish I could have seen that. I
Oh,
would
it
have
was
loved
hilarious. We were doing all kinds of strange things. Of course, Sam the Accordion Man, and
Sure.
and we were actually doing a few Cohen tunes, which didn't work at all, but it was fun. So you've been actually have managed to endear yourselves to the traddest of trad guys.
Okay. More trad than George Probert?
Well, I think Hal comes close.
Yeah, that's
Of
true.
course, Hal's played on a couple of his albums as well.
Yes.
And those guys, I mean, the Robbie Rhodes and Dan Comans and that whole crowd of the moldy figs in the area.
Sure, yeah.
Love your playing, and that says an awful lot.
Well, Hal Smith was also an early advocate of what I was trying to do and doing, and I met him because I had got the notion that I should double on guitar, and that might have been advice from you, actually. early on, I was only playing banjo, and I think you were one of the people that said, you could get more work if you doubled on guitar. So San Diego was having their jazz camps. At the time they were having a swing camp that they were doing all swing arrangements and swing instruments. And Rebecca Kilgore was teaching the guitar class, and I thought, well, this is perfect. Um, I can learn to play rhythm guitar, and then I don't have to, become a Les Paul, copy or any. If I could just play rhythm guitar, that sounds great.
Yeah, be another Freddie Green.
I loved Freddie Green. I thought this sounds perfect. So I went to that camp, and that's where I met Clint Baker and Mark Caparone and Hal Smith, and all of them were like, "Oh, you're pretty good. We should probably hire you and get you in this scene a little more." So
Well,
it's
you
it.
just mentioned, you mentioned that a handful of guys there who uh, are deeply steeped in tradition when it comes to early jazz, and it's true. It's really interesting. Clint, however, also, I mean, not Clint, but Hal also kind of steered you into a country swing, which
Yes,
always which always cracked me up. I remember the first time you played with them in that capacity.
yes,
You said they're dressing me up in the outfit. I know you'll like Dan.
yes,
It was one of those sweetheart of swing type of looks again.
yes. Absolutely.
How
Yeah,
did you enjoy that band?
I
Or
loved
do
it.
you enjoy that band?
I do, and here's the reason. Because I started as a bluegrass banjo player, so there's something about that kind of music that just feels like my childhood, like Evansville, Indiana. So it's a lot of fun, and it feels, it feels right.
Well, it's not far removed. It's just another form of American folk music,
That's the thing. They're
you
they're
know.
very closely related. When you look at the history of Western swing and jazz, and you go back, it's like
And
there's
you
a
throw a
lot.
little bit of Hawaiian steel guitar in there, and you've got it made. It's
There you go.
it's pretty crazy. I
Yeah.
I love that style of music personally, and there's so much. There's a larger expanded repertoire that we don't get to look at as trad musicians, trad jazz musicians. That is.
Yeah.
Um, it's really funny. We were listening to my son and I. My son goes down and picks me up and brings me up to do these every day. And he has found a Israeli woman clarinet player who's playing traditional Brazilian folk music, and it swings. It's a tambourine and clarinet. And
I'd like to hear that. Send me a link or
oh, I
something.
will. I
Fantastic.
will. I think there's actually one on this channel. There's
Okay.
going to be one on this channel when you find that.
Perfect.
And and you find out that a lot of the indigenous folk musics from around the world have a lot in common
Yeah.
when it comes to not necessarily chord progressions, perhaps, but
Hmm.
in the feel and in the spirit of the you know of the melody lines.
Sure. Yeah.
What can I say? I wasn't being very articulate right then, but
I
I
know.
can fix it. I can fix it in editing.
There you go.
And like a lot of us,
Yeah.
you were also a theme park warrior,
Oh
which
yes.
is, I think, an apt term for those of you who aren't musicians and enjoy seeing these musicians at theme parks. It is a job. I mean, it's a job
Yes. But it's interesting. I think the theater side of me kind of enjoys it.
an audience is an audience.
Yeah. It's a show. We're not doing serious jazz music. We're putting on a show. And
In your case, that's like that just yells at you from that
yes,
show.
part of me just really enjoys that. So
I mean the show aspect of it. I
yes.
remember because as you know, I spent a lot of time at Knott's Berry Farm with Rusty Stires and Brad Roth and those guys, and
Yeah.
they kept wanting to try and script something, and we like completely repelled.
Yeah.
In fact, one summer they had a Broadway producer out there. They did this whole thing that was park encompassed, uh, and no, no, people try to write shows for us. We were not cooperative.
But here's the thing about you, Dan. You're more like comedy improv. Everything is organic and it's on the fly and it's hilarious. So you're not the kind of person I wouldn't say write a show for this guy. I'd say give him a topic and let him do his thing.
That's also why I haven't done stand up.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends say you should do it, and I
Nah.
I can't craft 6 minutes of a perfect show.
No, but I've seen you at festivals have people rolling in the aisles just off of spontaneous little
Well,
aside.
that's because they're throwing up so hard they can't stand up. But yeah. Well, thanks, Katie.
Yeah,
But you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
Uh, in fact, it's gotten me in trouble many a times for being funny when somebody else on stage wanted to be funny.
Oh,
So,
yes. Yeah,
you
yes.
know, and
That's
that's just a quirk. When I
and
get jobs with people, whether they be teaching, because as you know, I teach a high school level.
right.
The first thing I tell them when they hire me, I say, I've got to tell you that I have a sense of humor that's kind of like Tourette's. I really
That's
don't.
an accurate description. Yeah,
Oh, it is,
yeah,
and I don't. It's not intentional.
yeah.
I tend to have. I'm ADD. What can I say? Is what it boils down to, and it manifests itself in humor. So anyway, enough about me. That's how. What do you think about me? No. So you got through the Pixar Harmonic Orchestra,
That's right. Well,
and
first I was there with the Ellis Island Boys, so that
yes,
was kind of my in because Ralph had basically a small version of the Reynolds Brothers with his brother John on guitar and Mark Caprone on trumpet, and I played string bass, and so we were brought in as a contract band, so we were not cast members,
right.
um, but they really liked us, and through them seeing me there with that band, I got the offer to audition for the Philharmonic Orchestra,
Oh,
which was
cool.
a scripted show. I mean, we had arrangements to learn and and jokes to tell the same way every time. So it was a different experience, but I enjoyed it too for what it was. It was
It must have been interesting to have that many cast members go through that show
yes,
with a scripted show,
yeah.
because delivery and where laughs come and how lines work have a lot to do with the delivery.
Absolutely. Well, they did let us all kind of put our own spin on it. So they had two other male bass players. I was the only female bass player. And I made a choice early on. I had to do a lot of the jokes and back and forth with the main guy that was the MC guy.
Right.
I made a choice that I was going to kind of play it like Gracie Fields. Like I wouldn't get the joke
Okay.
that I would just be kind of and the director of the show really liked that choice and said, "Yeah, do that, go with that." So that was kind of my slant on that for the run of that show.
And then, of course, we find out that Ryan, one of the mallet players, happens to be my son's high school drum teacher
Oh, I didn't know
that
that.
he uses for his band. Talking about this small world we live in.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Boy,
I was shocked. And then, of course, one of my favorite drummers of all time worked with you out there, Matt Johnson,
Matt Johnson, I
who
love Matt, and
who in my book is another one of those genius drummers.
absolutely. And we would pull up. We'd be in the break room and pull up old yacht club videos, so everybody could see little baby Matt Johnson with baby John Reynolds and baby Westy.
Along with the hilarious stuff that group turned out, they were really hot swinging musicians. I
Absolutely.
mean, and of course they had the foil where you may have been Gracie for that band. It was Bob Reitmeyer
Oh,
was the
that's
foil, you
my
know.
man. Yeah,
And
yeah.
what a tremendous stuff, and what a great name on top of it,
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
the Palm Springs Yacht Club. And in fact, Matt's agreed to do. Most of your friends have agreed to do some interviews with me. I'm really looking
Wonderful.
forward to it.
Oh, I can't wait to see some of those.
Yeah, Matt's going to be. I've known Matt since he was 10.
Wow.
He
Really?
actually started out in drum and bugle corps
Oh,
back in the 70s,
yeah.
and he was in the baby corps when I was in the old man corps,
Ah,
and we've known each other that long. Isn't that crazy?
that's great. I can't wait to see that interview. That's going to
Well,
be
me neither. We'll see what happens.
yeah.
In fact, yeah. So a lot of these guys are along there now. So what have you been doing to keep yourself busy here while none of us are playing?
Yeah, well, I've been like you, I've been turning my attention to the YouTube channel. I've been making videos with CJ, so
And other people.
and other people too. Yeah. And hey, we should make a video, Dan. That'd be fun.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get actually there are two people that I've been trying to get to do an interview with me
Yeah.
that both said they would initially, and then they just haven't scheduled one.
Okay.
And one of them is Evan Christopher,
Sure. Yeah.
who of course used to play with the Misbehaving Jazz Band among other things, and now he's a gigantic star.
Sure. Yeah.
And the other one is Bria
Oh,
Skonberg, who said she would immediately, but I met her when she was 10 also. And
Right.
so haven't really played a lot together or anything, but so she may just be balking at somebody who's such a fanboy.
Uh,
But if Bria, if you're watching any of this, and Katie will tell you that I can be trusted to give a nice interview.
this is great. I think, Bria, I think this would be a good career move.
Because she's just so unknown, and
Yeah,
she doesn't do any traveling, and yeah.
oh goodness. I saw her probably, I'm going to say it was probably about a year ago that she played at the Hollywood and Highland, to a huge crowd.
Yeah,
And I
I
went to
should
see,
have gone out for her Southern California tour, and I missed it.
oh, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Great band, packed the place. So much fun. And I went to see her afterwards, and she was just as soon as she saw me, she was like, Katie, and it's like, it's Bria. It's just the same old nice, sweet Bria we all know and love.
One thing I really, really appreciate about her is that I know she's had plenty of offers to drop her trumpet and just be a singing idol, and she likes to stay true to who she is, and I really respect that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's something that's pretty admirable.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the stuff you've dropped. You're massive. What are you using? Using a different platform for those though, right? You're using acapella.
Well, I started on acapella, but now about a month ago I got Final Cut, so now I'm doing it differently, and I think they're better now. They're getting better. So,
I'm surprised that you haven't done more of just playing with your bass guitar, banjo, like trio stuff.
I've done a few, and I actually have a few more of those I'm working on. So stay tuned.
And singing.
For those.
I want to see one with piano.
Okay.
So it'd be fun. Oh, I'm up for anything you'd like to do, of course. But
Great.
you've got an in-house tuba player, and that's all right.
Oh, we can put him on cornet. That's
I always love it when you get a chance to come out and play Curly's.
oh yeah.
That gig's actually been kind of a godsend, not only for the people and the fans that are family now.
Well, it's funny because you never know who's going to show up there. One night we were there, and Dan Barrett was there, and Brian Shaw was there, and
Right, Jeff Beaumont and
Jeff Beaumont. Heavy hitters come in. Everybody plays Curly's.
well, they weren't there to play. Brian reluctantly agreed to sit in with us, but that was fun. And Andy's not a slouch on piano either, of course, Dan's son.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's funny. Brian was just going to come up and play a number. I noticed he played the entire rest of the evening, so it wasn't like
Well,
he wasn't having any fun.
I happen to love those guys. In a literal sense, I owe them my career. We met in '72
Wow.
at Orange Coast College, along with Charlie Warren and the Waltz Brothers and that whole Orange County Mafia gang.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I keep calling it that. I should probably stop that.
It's all right.
But there was a really golden time in that area of Southern California for trad players.
Yeah.
I talked to Dan Comans about the fact that they were playing, and Dan and Larry and Brian were all down at the foot of the stage,
Oh yeah.
Absorbing it. And I don't know how that got started in that area, but there it is.
It is. Yeah.
I need to find more people. Of course, I interviewed Howard Alden
Oh,
a couple of days ago, and I could have claimed he was a New Yorker, but now he's in Arizona.
oh.
But I need to get a wider reach, is what I'm trying to say, for my interviews with some of the East Coast gang.
Yeah.
I did interview Lee Floyd. Have you seen the Lee Floyd interview?
Oh, I have to watch that. I saw that come up, and I need to see that one.
So that's interesting. He's now living on his boat in Florida somewhere. But
Oh wow. Good for him.
lots of banjo players.
Yes.
Not enough woodwind players. By the way, woodwind players, if you're watching this, I want to interview you.
There you go. Ooh, talk to the Woltzes. Talk to Paul Woltz.
Well, yeah, Randy's coming on,
okay.
and I've sent a request to Paul, but he's not exactly the most responsive person, especially with instrument repair. But that's beside the point. A lot of these guys. Katie, this has been lovely.
Yeah.
I want to give you some time here. You've got as much time as you want to talk about whatever you want and plug whatever you'd like. Oh, I know. Before we do that,
Okay.
Vaughn and the Villains.
Okay. Yeah, that's fun.
David's gonna come on and do an interview with me.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
And we've only met once in passing. We were both on gigs in LA, and literally he was headed from one room to another, and I was headed from another to one room.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hey," because of course, he plays at Curly's when I can't do it.
Right, right.
And so we've never really had a chance to chat. I'm really looking forward to that.
You're going to have a blast.
So I'm sure it'll be fun.
Absolutely.
Anyway, let's talk a little bit about that band and your involvement with that, because
Yeah.
that's a little bit against Katie Cavera type.
That is my rock and roll party band. It is just pure theater and fun and joy. It's this crazy band that Andy Como and his wife Dawn Lewis started, and they had this idea that they wanted just to have this ginormous band. I think there's something like 18 musicians and anywhere from 3 to
It's,
gosh, I think we even had 6 dancing girls.
it's
at
a
one
spectacle.
It's a spectacle. It is a show, and it's super fun, and they're just a great group of people and crazy fun times. And they're now my neighbors. So
Oh my!
Andy and Dawn they were house hunting, and I said, "Oh, you ought to live in my neighborhood. There's a house for sale across the street from me," and they ended up buying it. So
Oh, that's fun.
it's great. When we have rehearsals, he has his garage all soundproofed, and I can walk across the street and rehearse. It's wonderful.
Oh gosh, that's wonderful. It definitely comes off like a bohemian bunch of friends
It really is.
who just want to party.
Yes.
And the first time I saw the group, I saw you on string bass and David on tuba. I was going, "What is going on here? What?"
It is super fun, and David's kind of like you on tuba. He can fluctuate between playing melodies and playing bass lines. And I have to say, he's the perfect guy. I don't know that there's a lot of people I would want to do that tuba string bass double with. I
agree.
And I can do it with Dave Silverman, but it's a tricky thing to negotiate. But we always seem to have fun and make it work.
Yeah, it's a wonderful band. And check it out, people. They do have videos online.
Yes.
On YouTube, and it's just a kick in the pants to watch.
Yeah.
Especially with the dancers and singers and.
Yeah. So I go. They have a lovely backyard with a fire pit, and I'll go over there, and we'll have social distance, gatherings.
By the way, I'm sure you know, but we just did one for the social distance concert for the society.
I'm excited to see that. Yes, I'm very excited to see how that one turned out.
It's pretty funny. It works fine. We were playing in Mike Olson's backyard for that.
Oh, great! Terrific.
And a kid was driving by. That heard the music and stopped and wanted to know if he could be the audience. Okay. And he was a saxophone student from Citrus College who lived on the corner. So he just stopped and he came into the backyard to hear what was going on. It's really interesting.
That's great. Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Well, what can I say? I wish you were there.
Next one.
All right, Katie. I'm going to sign off for now. How can people hear your music?
They can find me on YouTube. And if you just Google Katie Cavera, lots of stuff comes up.
Have you got any product for sale?
I don't. It's funny. With all of us being locked down, I've started investing in recording equipment. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a recording out of this.
Oh, pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it's time for Katie Cavera. What is that?
That's my phone rings through the computer sometimes. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I was going to say, I think it's time for Katie and her boys.
Yes.
One thing we talked about a long time ago was you fronting your own band and making your way that way. And I think it's time, kiddo. Not just the Interstate 5, but.
This is true. No, this was part of the 10-step plan we discussed over coffee, I think, back in 1995.
That's right. We were at a Chili's, I think.
Yes, something like that.
Anyway, Katie, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Please stay in touch,
yes.
and let's try and make sure we get on a stage together soon.
Let's do that soon, even if it's remotely. We can do a video.
There you go.
All right.
Anytime I've got is yours.
Okay, thank you.
We'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all for watching Trad Jazz Today with Dan Zeilinger. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Videos come out every Wednesday and Friday.